everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Packers Unscripted from Packers.com. I am Mike Spofford, joined, as always, by my trusted colleague, Wes Hodkowitz. We're coming to you here from our studios at Lambeau Field. And, Wes, it's actually been a week since we sat in these chairs because last week was a different sort of week around here with Thursday Night Football against Washington. But the Packers pulled it out, an impressive 27-18 victory over the team that was one of the last two standing in the NFC last year. And I think when you look at this game, we talked as much as we could on our previous show in previewing this game and what the Packers were going to be up against with Jayden Daniels, that young quarterback for the Washington Commanders. But the defensive effort against Daniels was really outstanding pretty much from start to finish.
Okay, so I'm going to get my phone out here. I want to get the stat right. I don't know if you saw what I tweeted out this morning, but I thought this was pretty remarkable. The NFL does a tremendous job with their research department of providing some context for some of these performances. So just to give you an idea of the performance that Green Bay had against the reigning NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year. The Commanders, 18 points, tied for their fewest in any of Jayden Daniels' 22 career starts, including the playoffs. And also the fewest total yards, 230, yards per play, 3.5, rushing yards, 51, and 15 first downs in a Daniels start. They had him completely bottled up.
Yeah.
And for Green Bay they allowed 17 rushing yards to Daniels. They only allowed 51 for the entire game. The downfield options, they didn't really even have an explosive play until the fourth quarter.
Right.
I was blown away by what we saw, Mike, because it took everything that Green Bay did well against the Detroit Lions, and they carried everything over on 4 days' notice to do it again against the Washington Commanders. The game, again, as Matt LaFleur talked about on Monday, probably a little bit closer than you want it to be, particularly in the second half. But be that as it may, these are not easy football teams. Ask the Chicago Bears what they think of the Detroit Lions right now.
Right.
These are two very good football teams that are going to be in the hunt all season long. And the Packers, for all intents and purposes, really handed it to them.
Yeah, the 17 rushing yards by Daniels, I think, is what jumps out at me because, I mean, this is a guy, he finished second in the league in terms of quarterback rushing yards behind only Lamar Jackson last year in winning that Offensive Rookie of the Year honor. And I put together a quick piece that posted Monday on our website. I've sort of called it like the crazy stat from the game. And when you look at it, so 4 sacks against Jayden Daniels, outstanding job by the pass rush, but it wasn't just the 4 sacks. It was that they got 12 quarterback hits on a very mobile, elusive quarterback. I mean, they punished him in a lot of ways. And I took a look back at the last couple of years, and I had counted up, and I listed in the story, over the last 2 years, 14 other games in which you could classify the opposing quarterback as a mobile or elusive quarterback. So I'm not talking about the Sam Darnolds and the Jared Goffs of the world, right? We're talking about Jalen Hurts and Russell Wilson and guys like that over the last couple of years. And when you look at the quarterback hits that the Packers had in those games against mobile, elusive quarterbacks, in those 14 games, it was an average of like 4.5 per game. And the Packers got 12 against Jayden Daniels. That just shows you where this pass rush, how disruptive Green Bay's pass rush is right now. And yes, Micah Parsons is having a huge part to do with that. But when 8 different guys in a game get a quarterback hit as you rack up 12 on a quarterback who's not exactly easy to track down, that says something about the collective effort, and that's really what's been most impressive about it.
And for me, too, looking into those numbers, only one of those guys was not an absolute defensive front player, Edgerrin Cooper. There were many times last year where it was safeties, it was inside backers. No, it was the defensive line getting after Jayden Daniels. And when you think about those mobile-type quarterbacks, ultimately, that's what it comes down to, right? It's the guys up front that can you not only collapse the pocket, but can you make life very difficult on those players. 8 pressures, according to NFL Next Gen stats for Micah Parsons. 3 quarterback hits, a team high in this game. And obviously, had the sack there as well with Edgerrin Cooper. But it was watching Rashawn Gary get after it when number 1 wasn't on the field. It was seeing Lucas Van Ness starting to grow into his game more and more. And then not forsaking the run defense in that pursuit either. I mean, when you look at what Washington had done a week earlier, 230 rushing yards against the New York Giants, the Packers more than quartered that in this matchup.
Yeah.
So the defense set the tone, and somebody in Insider Inbox, I don't know if you caught this or not, Insider Inbox made a really good observation when the Packers punt the ball, you don't really feel like everything is lost. There's almost like a swagger now when the defense goes on the field.
Here comes the defense.
Like you're not worried about.
Let's see what happens here.
Yeah, you're not worried about, hey, are they going to put up some points here? It's like, hey, is there a potential pick six? Is there a fumble recovery? Is there going to be a turnover? Is there going to be a 3-and-out? This is a situation Green Bay's not been in a lot during my 14 years covering this team. Remarkable output in this matchup.
Yeah, and it was, as you said, it was a continuation defensively from the opener against Detroit, and now in 2 straight games, 2 of the best offenses from 2024 in the NFL, neither one could find the end zone against Green Bay until the fourth quarter. So that's happened now in back-to-back games. And before we shift gears to the offense, to stick with the defense, we would be remiss if we didn't mention the performance by Keyshawn Nixon at cornerback. He ends up with 5 passes defensed or passes broken up, whatever phrase you like to use, PBUs for short. The last Packers defensive back to have 5 PBUs in a game, you have to go back to Jair Alexander's rookie season in 2018, which was a game against the Rams at the old LA Coliseum, to find a Packers defender with 5 PBUs in a game. What I saw was Jayden Daniels in some ways getting frustrated with not being able to move the ball consistently, and he kind of started to lock in on Terry McLaurin as number 1 target, and in some respects was trying to force the ball into his best receiver's hands, and Keyshawn Nixon just wasn't having it. He just wasn't letting it happen. And hats off to Nixon, but again, when you see that kind of work in the back end, it's an illustration of how much the rush and the coverage go hand in hand when you play good defense, because Keyshawn Nixon is out there not feeling like he has to cover a receiver for 3.5 or 4.5 seconds. He knows that either that quarterback is going to get hit in a couple of seconds or that ball is going to come out. And when the guys in the back end can have that as part of their internal clock, and the way they react and the way they play and the way they break on the ball, that's where the rush and the coverage become very coordinated. And I thought we saw that in a number of instances, the way Nixon was defending his man.
The thing that stood out to me the most with this performance, 2 things. One, the fact that they kept testing Keyshawn and he kept deflecting these passes.
Yeah.
They could not get anything going. But Daniels threw the ball 42 times and had 200 passing yards, and that's including that kind of garbage time series at the end of the game. You were mentioning, I'll just bring up these stats, Terry McLaurin, 5 catches on 9 targets for 48 yards. Noah Brown, 1 catch for 9 yards on 4 targets. I think the other 3 that were deflected, I think were all breakups by Keyshawn Nixon. And then Jalen Lane, 1 catch for 2 yards on 4 targets. The Packers secondary went to work in this game, and we were talking with Xavier McKinney afterwards, and he did say it's tough right now because it's getting a little boring. And I'll be honest with you, as I'm watching Russell Wilson throw up a 500 Hail Mary at the end of that game against Dallas, as I'm watching Caleb Williams just give an absolute gift to Kirby Joseph,
right?
I'm like, man, yeah, you wish that Xavier McKinney would get some of these balls. I mean, Xavier McKinney had to earn a lot of his interceptions last year, and that those passes just haven't been there this year. But when you factor in how he's performing, the interception that Evan Williams had last week, the way that I thought Javon Bullard looked in the slot, how physical he played, and then they used a rotation at the other cornerback position between Carrington Valentine and a returning Nate Hobbs, and I thought both of those guys balled out when given their opportunities, which isn't easy to do when you're not in an every down rhythm. Certainly, Keyshawn Nixon was a headliner in this matchup. 5 PBUs, the most in 7 years. That's remarkable. But I thought that secondary, by and large, played really, really well.
Yeah, I thought so too. Well, shifting gears to the offensive side of the ball, maybe the biggest, the only disappointment as far as early on in this game is that the Packers just barely misfired on the opening possession, looking for that fast start again like they had against Detroit. They decide to pass on the long field goal. They go with a quick snap thinking maybe they've got, the 12 men on the field for Washington. That didn't happen. It's fourth down. And Matthew Golden is open, but unfortunately Jordan Love underthrows it just a little bit. So the first possession comes up fruitless, but the Packers still took command of this game, and by whatever it was, the middle of the third quarter or so, I mean you're sitting at 17-3, and the Packers are in a pretty good spot, and the guy who was sort of, I guess you'd call him the unstoppable force in this particular game was tight end Tucker Kraft.
One of the most awe-inspiring performances I've seen from a Packers tight end, in the fact that Kraft does this from a place of being completely well-rounded. Jermichael Finley, and credit to Jermichael for what he accomplished here, but he was always more of a slash receiver, right? There was even a debate at one time when his franchise tag number coming up as if he's going to be a receiver or a tight end. Tucker Kraft is your tried and true blue-collar tight end, but he's rounded out his game in such a way that we're watching, as I joked about and said last week in Insider Inbox, there isn't a comparison for me for Tucker Kraft. To me, he is the guy that the next guy is going to be compared to.
Yeah.
To have the most receiving yards, to have the most productive day through the air for a Packers tight end since the Richard Rodgers Hail Mary game.
Yeah, the Hail Mary game in Detroit in 2015, yeah.
That shows you how productive he was in this matchup. And as cool as that 57-yard catch down the seam was, and it was awesome. Third longest catch of his career, by the way. Not even in the top two yet. But when the Packers needed that response late, Tucker Kraft came through. When you talk about putting and sealing this victory, it was Tucker Kraft, it was Josh Jacobs. He's a finisher, man, and he does not blink. You look back to what happened against Detroit, he gets his helmet ripped off. The next play, he's running right at Brian Branch to the end zone for a 15-yard touchdown, catching it and just taking whatever ramifications come with it. In this game, to be this productive, to come up in these type of situations, this guy is made of the right stuff, dude. And it was remarkable to watch.
Yeah, what I like best about this Packers offensive performance, and it was flawed. There were a couple of false starts in the game, one on Tucker Kraft, actually. Right. There were multiple holding calls, one of which on right tackle Anthony Belton, which we'll get into more of that in a minute, but it was on that first drive of the game. Belton gets called for holding, and it wipes out a touchdown pass to Jayden Reed, which unfortunately was a play where Jayden Reed broke his collarbone, and we can get into that more in a minute as well. So it was a flawed offensive performance, but what I like best about it is that in a game that the Packers were seemingly in command and in control for the bulk of it, when Washington did find the end zone early in the fourth quarter, suddenly it's 17-10. So now you're at the point where there's still, whatever it was, 12, 13 minutes left on the clock. It's a one-score game, and the offense has to answer the bell, because it's one thing for the opponent when they've been behind by multiple scores to get it to a one-score game. It's another thing for that opponent to get the ball back and still only be down one score. Yep. So the Packers get the ball after Washington cuts it to 17-10. They need to answer the bell. And what do? They go 65 yards down the field in 9 plays, finishing it off with a really nice play-action touchdown pass to Tucker Kraft. We saw some creativity in the running game with Savion Williams, taking a direct snap going one way. Then the very next play, you run the end around with Matthew Golden going the other direction. So you're stretching the defense laterally as you're moving the ball down the field, and then you hit them with the play-action pass for the touchdown. So suddenly then it's 24-10, and you're midway through the fourth quarter, and for the most part you've put the game away there because you didn't allow Washington to get the ball back only down one score. When they got it back, they were still down 2 scores again, and that's how you win games in this league, because a lot of things can go right and wrong and whatever through the first 3 quarters, but when you need to put together a fourth quarter drive, the Packers did that offensively, and it was what put this one away.
First thing, just on the touchdown by Kraft, it shows you the brilliance not only of Matt LaFleur, but also just with Green Bay using the 2 tight end sets the way they use, which in Insider Inbox, I even made the comment that this is almost, in a way, becoming the base offense for this, now that you have Luke Musgrave back. I mean, Musgrave is playing, but you also have John Fitzpatrick almost has seen as many snaps as he have, just based on what they can do on the field together. And on that particular play, the two big plays, when you look at Kraft's game, there was an option for another tight end to be involved too. The 57-yarder, he said, yeah, if they cover me, then Musgrave's open.
Yep.
On the touchdown, the way they're able to seal off on the outside, that is what is allowing Tucker Kraft to sneak by and leak into the end zone for the touchdown. Just amazing production. Again, the most productive day, tied for the most productive day by Packer tight ends since the merger in 1970. It just so happens the 2009 team had the same 156 yards receiving against Brett Favre's Minnesota Vikings. That being said, that drive was critical. I leaned over to you and I said, this is a pivotal point of this game for Matt LaFleur, for Jordan Love. They needed a response. And what I liked about the way that LaFleur called it, he showed not only creativity but faith in his young playmakers. Savion Williams has not practiced a lot. He certainly has not played a lot due to some injuries. They've been dialing up a lot of different concepts for him, though, that are not the traditional receiver sets. This is a guy that did end arounds. He ran the ball. He played some quarterback at TCU. And they just put their hand directly into that cookie jar and pulled something out and got a 16-yard run out of it. If he stays on his feet, who knows how much that could have broke for. Okay, that was a fun play. On the very next play, they run the sweep over to Matthew Golden for 9 yards. The Packers didn't just say, okay, well, we'll run a slant or a stopper here to Romeo Doubs, or we'll do something in the flat for Tucker Kraft. They went deep into their offensive playbook at a time in which they really needed a response, and they were rewarded by these young players. That is the exciting thing about this team. It's not about how many guys catch the ball. It's about the threat of how many guys could possibly catch the ball or touch the ball, and the rookies made Matt LaFleur look really smart.
Yeah, and that says something when you're putting the ball in the hands of your rookies with a big game on the line in the fourth quarter and whatnot. As you said, it shows the faith and what they believe these guys can contribute now, and obviously then it's these opportunities and cashing in on these opportunities that will build on what's to come for young players like Williams and Golden. Unfortunately, the bad news on the offensive side is the injuries. I mentioned Jayden Reed. He ends up breaking his collarbone on what was a tremendous throw and catch that unfortunately wasn't a touchdown because of a holding penalty on Anthony Belton. And so Reed is going to be out for an extended time here. On the offensive line, the Packers were down 2 starters in this game. Aaron Banks, the left guard, was out with a ankle and groin injuries. And then at right tackle, Zach Tom, also not able to make it back on the short week with the oblique injury. So we saw Jordan Morgan, last year's first-round pick. He stepped in for Banks at left guard. And then at right tackle, it was a rotation for a while between the rookie Anthony Belton and then the newcomer, the new veteran acquisition in Darian Kennard. But then other than that holding penalty on the opening drive of the game, Anthony Belton really held his own, and the Packers kind of turned it over to him in the second half and let the rookie second-round pick ride this thing out. And we'll see what happens injury-wise as far as these guys on the offensive line for this week's trip to Cleveland. But the Packers felt pretty good about the way they came out of this game and the way the depth on their offensive line came through.
First and foremost, Jordan Morgan, my hat goes off to him. This is a guy that has played right guard. He's played left tackle. He ends up being in the left guard spot, and for the better part of that game, you didn't even hear his name.
Right.
I mean, he came in clutch in a huge – because we knew something was going to be up probably with Zach Tom from the moment that he went out. That was not a great-looking injury against Detroit. The Aaron Banks thing happened late.
Yeah.
So then you're kind of in this thing of, okay, well, it's an ankle, the groin. Where is he going to be at? Is he potentially in the cards for Green Bay? And it ends up being Jordan Morgan having to play that position with no real practice reps. So your hat goes off to him. Anthony Belton proved something to me in this game in that if he makes a mistake, he's going to make the corrections to it. He made the mistakes in Indianapolis where he had the multiple penalties and ends up finishing strong in the second half. The same thing happened in this game. that could have been something that sort of disheveled him. And he even said, he's like, if stuff happens like that, you let it affect you, it's only going to make things worse.
Right.
He made the adjustments. And the thing I love about him, Mike, I don't know if you saw some of these highlights on Twitter, but like these little bumps he's doing, the guy is so naturally powerful that if a pass rusher is off balance, he is going to put you on the ground. 6'6", 336 pounds. From the day that they drafted him, you and I have talked about how this is not the standard Packers tackle. Yeah. This guy is a monster at that position. And when you use that type of physicality and when you have that type of approach to your game, the possibilities, the right tackle position, he played it the way that historically the right tackle position has been played in this league, a mauler. And I think it showed the Packers that Zach Tom is their franchise. He is their cornerstone. He is their pillar. He has proved himself to be that. But if you're going to be without him, especially with the stretch that the Green Bay Packers are approaching here this week, I thought Anthony Belton really put his best foot forward.
Yeah, I thought he did too. And I remember we talked a lot on this show, and I wrote about it as well after the preseason game in Indy when he had the multiple different kinds of penalties and all this in the first half, and he's kind of getting berated by Matt LaFleur as they're coming off the field at halftime. And you knew in that moment when the Packers coaches left him out there in the second half at Indy and said, all right, shake it off and go play. And that's exactly what he did. And you knew coming out of that could end up being a really, really important game, an important building block for a young player, that for all the mistakes that he was making in the first half of that game, the coaches didn't just yank him out and sit him on the bench.
Yeah.
They left him out there and said, young man, go play. And the Packers are seeing the fruits of that approach much earlier in the season than maybe we thought. But you never know when those injuries are going to strike and when you're going to call on your depth to come through for you. And in this case, it happened to be on a short week with a big time opponent coming into Lambeau Field, prime time, under the lights, the whole thing. And after the first drive of the game, the one mistake that he made, Anthony Belton delivered.
This is probably the number one argument for preseason games.
Yes.
This is a guy, and you talk about Packers offensive linemen that have kind of had to earn their stripes in training camp and preseason, the guys that play 150, 200 snaps in the preseason. That's why you invest that into it, because you might be in a situation like this, and now it's not new to you. You're not having to learn those lessons in the biggest situations possible. And for Belton, I'll tell you this. I've watched a lot of offensive line play over the years. Couldn't grade it for you, but I've watched a lot of it. If you gave me the choice between a guy that makes some mistakes and draws a few flags early on, but has his makeup, or the guy that maybe does everything right but physically cannot hold up to the position and is getting beat, I'll take the former.
Yeah.
And I think he showed the Packers why.
Yeah, you can coach technique, you can coach your way through mistakes. There are certain things in this game about players and their makeup that can't be coached, and that's what you find out. You find out if young players have what it takes. One other injury update, Wes, before we got to pay some bills around here. Christian Watson, he talked with reporters at his locker after Monday's practice, kind of the bonus practice when the team comes back from the mini bye on the weekend off. And we know this receiving core now will be without Jayden Reed for a while. Christian Watson is not back yet. You have the three veterans, Dobbs, Wicks, Malik Heath had a great catch on the overturned replay review against Washington. We talked about the rookies working in now with Golden and Williams. So the Packers have the depth. They have what they need to withstand this absence of Jayden Reed, however long it is. But it sounds like Christian Watson might be back awfully soon. He's not eligible to come back until after the first 4 games of the regular season. He's not eligible to practice until then because he started the regular season on the PUP list. And then after those first 4 games, the Packers actually have their bye week. So it's a matter of, I guess, watching with intent interest when the Packers return from their bye. Are we going to see number 9 out there on the practice field? He talked about having kind of the pressure taken off by being able to sign that short-term contract extension. So he's no longer in a contract year at this point because he's now under contract for next year with Green Bay as well. But he basically told reporters that he's done everything there is to do in his rehab and to get back and be ready to play. except to practice. Look, practice is the next step for him, and it sounds like number 9 is going to be back here before too much longer.
It was great listening to Christian at his locker on Monday, because a couple things here. This guy's a natural-born leader. We've all known that. Stand-up guy award winner for the Packers Media Corps already at one point. I'm sure at some point in his career, I could see him being a NFL Man of the Year type guy. This is what the guy presents as a ball player. So when I say this, it doesn't come from a point of, oh, he was ever immature. That's not it. But the maturity that he showed while being at his locker and explaining, yeah, I've come back quick a lot of times. This time, I want to be 100% Christian Watson when I'm back on the field. I don't want to be 90. I don't even want to be 95. I want to be 100%. I want to be the player that everybody knows he can be. And it's not just about being healthy. It's about being ready and being healthy.
Yeah.
And I don't know when Christian Watson's going to be back. I don't know. I couldn't give you a guess as far as which game he's going to be active for the first time for Green Bay. But I'll tell you this. This guy is going to have an important, key, pivotal role to play for the Green Bay Packers in 2025. The Jayden Reed thing, it muddles the water a little bit, because this is a guy that is their leading receiver the past 2 seasons. As Matt LaFleur said, he is the spark plug of this offense. But at the same time, this is not Randall Cobb coming back from the collarbone in 2013. They are not asking Christian Watson to get out there and save them.
Yeah.
They have so many receivers they can turn to. They have so many running backs they can turn to. And they have 2 tight ends who both can be featured guys if they need to be. They have the resources to get through this here until Watson is ready to be on the field. But boy golly, when he is, seeing what Matthew Golden presents, seeing the way that Dontavian Wicks has played so far early on, and the fact that Tucker Kraft is in the middle of this breakthrough, a dangerous offense becomes more dangerous when number 9 is on the field.
And I think we saw, and this is actually something we haven't really touched on yet, although we talked about Matthew Golden so much throughout training camp and everything, those 2 plays against Washington, the one I mentioned on the opening drive of the game, the ball was just underthrown, another one in the second quarter where he basically roasted the entire secondary, was behind everybody, and Jordan Love was not going to underthrow this one, but he just barely overthrew it, and Golden couldn't quite get to it with a full extension dive deep down the middle of the field. My point is, it just feels like the big breakout of Matthew Golden in the regular season for him to put his rookie stamp on his impact on this offense. It feels like it's coming, doesn't it?
I saw all I needed to see from Matthew Golden on his catch from Malik Willis against Seattle. 39 yards, as Malik even said, the pass was not thrown perfectly. It was thrown to the inside rather than keeping it outside. Matthew Golden had to make a correction while operating at that speed to come back to that ball and to make a play on it. My point being, when I say that, is we're very close to a pass not needing to be perfect for Matthew Golden to be able to make a big play.
Yeah.
And ultimately, that's what the best receivers in the National Football League do. Not the guys that just have 1,000 yards or a handful of touchdowns. The guys that can take this game over. Matthew Golden has those traits. I'm sure Jordan Love is kind of, biting himself a little bit for not having that ball down the seam, maybe exactly where he needed to be. Obviously, the 4th down play as well. But there's going to come a time where Matthew Golden and his internal calculus there is going to be able to make those plays right. And I think it's going to be a lot sooner than what you would think for him being a rookie.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, we do need to pay some bills around here, so we will hear right now from our sponsors. Sirius XM NFL Radio delivers hard-hitting analysis and up-to-the-minute NFL news that true football fanatics need 24/7, 365. At Cousin Subs, we have something for everyone, like our Wisconsin cheese curds, mac and cheese, golden fries, and creamy shakes, all paired with your favorite sub or sub in a bowl. Cousin Subs, 50-plus years of better. Pit Boss Grills, the official grill of Packers tailgating at Lambeau or at your house. Take your game day to the next level with a Pit Boss wood pellet grill. Pit Boss Grills available at Menards. Hey Packers fans, we always knew Lambeau Field was a wonder, but now it's official. Learn more about all the wonders of Wisconsin at travelwisconsin.com/wonders. Welcome back to Packers Unscripted. Wes, before we go, a quick look at where things stand in the NFC North after 2 weeks. It's pretty simple. Packers are 2-0. The Lions and the Vikings are both 1-1. The Chicago Bears are 0-2. The Lions 1-1 and the Vikings 1-1, though, both look and feel a heck of a lot different. Detroit just dismantled Chicago, bouncing back from the loss at Lambeau Field, putting up 50+, looking like the Detroit Lions of the last couple of years. Minnesota, they escaped Chicago in Week 1 with that victory on Monday Night Football. They did not look ready for prime time in Week 2 against the Atlanta Falcons. Only 6 points on the board. The Falcons were in control of that game and post a multi-score victory there. And now the Vikings are going to be without their I was about to say rookie. He's not a rookie, but their new starting quarterback, J.J. McCarthy, for what sounds like multiple weeks with an ankle injury. He got rolled up on a hip drop-ish type of tackle on a scramble play on Sunday night against Atlanta. So there's a lot of consternation, I guess you'd say, at the bottom of the division right now with Minnesota and Chicago, whereas Green Bay and Detroit feeling like they're in a pretty good spot, and Detroit certainly regrets losing at Lambeau Field, but they're not sweating that one loss.
No, let me power through the Vikings here very quickly because I'd like to talk about the Detroit-Chicago game more. Kevin O'Connell's been in this situation before.
Yep.
He's been in a situation where a quarterback has come in the 11th hour and had to make him a starter and win football games. So I have no concern about that. I think the bigger thing for them is going to be you lose J.J. McCarthy, you lose Aaron Jones. They're already going through a bit of a transition with their backfield to begin with. Do you have the offensive firepower that you're going to need with maybe a defense that isn't going to be as dominant as last season? That's going to be the test here the next couple weeks if McCarthy's down for a minute, with Carson Wentz taking over at that spot.
Yeah.
The Detroit game was incredible to watch, and I watched most of it. Jared Goff, 23 of 28, 334 passing yards, 5 touchdowns, a 156 passer rating. Gibbs and Montgomery both had a rushing touchdown, 177 rushing yards altogether. The Detroit Lions are not going anywhere, and when the Packers face them the next time, it is going to be an absolute battle, as Tucker Kraft forecasted.
And it'll be on national TV on Thanksgiving at Ford Field.
Yeah.
So.
And the fact is that Detroit's a good team, so there's nothing to take away from the Chicago Bears here. But I raised this in Insider Inbox. There is so much talk every offseason about the Bears, and I am so worn out by it at this point because ultimately the only thing that matters, the proving ground, is when the games start in September, and that is where Chicago continues to come up short. It's great to talk about taking over the NFC North. It's great to talk about not giving it back. It's great to talk about how good Caleb Williams is, and it's great to talk about how every single move they make in the offseason is going to bring them back to contender status. They're 0-2. They're 0-2 again. And you never know where the season's going to go. It is just 2 games. But this is not the type of start you're thinking about if you're Ben Johnson coming in, setting the tone that he set, Ryan Poles getting a contract extension, and here they are once again. The Detroit Lions played them out of the building.
Yeah.
It wasn't just that they put up 52 points and all this. It's the fact that it never even looked competitive.
Right.
And I think there's a lot of soul searching that the Bears have to do.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of the Bears right now. Obviously, there's going to be a learning curve and a process with Ben Johnson and his quarterback Caleb Williams and all that. We know that there's a learning curve to that. And how that relationship develops, and a coach learning what his quarterback does best and what he's most comfortable with and all that kind of stuff. What I can't figure out is the first 3 quarters of the season, the Chicago Bears defense gave up 6 points and had a pick 6. And in the last 5 quarters, they've given up 70+ points. Mm-hmm. What do you make? I don't know what to make of that. Because as Ben Johnson is trying to figure this out with Caleb Williams, if that defense on the other side of the ball that Dennis Allen is coordinating, if that unit can't hold up, if they're just going to get steamrolled by a quality offense like Detroit, then I don't know where the Bears go from here. Like, what do you have to look forward to at this point?
Well,
so it's early. It's 2 weeks. It's a week-to-week league. I think the Bears offense with Johnson and Williams, they're going to figure some things out. If I'm a Chicago Bears fan, what I'm more concerned about than anything is what's going on defense.
And guess who's coming to Soldier Field this week? I mean, the Dallas Cowboys and Dak Prescott and that offense. That is a high-powered offense, and it looks like they have some answers to their backfield now too. This is as week 3 matchups go, and I know they got the Raiders after that, but as week 3 games go, this is a major gut check.
Yeah,
I feel like for Chicago.
Last thing before we go, a bunch of 2-0 teams across the league right now. The Packers being one of them. A lot of people talking about the Packers, obviously with the 2 teams they've beaten. Who are the other 2-0 teams that kind of jump out at you? For me so far, I've been impressed with the Philadelphia Eagles. I've been impressed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and what Baker Mayfield has done in crunch time of the first 2 games of the season. Both of those on the road, actually, now that I think about it. Him pulling out clutch touchdown drives on the road. And you know, I've been impressed with the Los Angeles Chargers at 2-0 as well. Yeah,
for sure. And in some ways, a lot of those are expected, right? I mean, Harbaugh set the foundation last year. Herbert, they're getting done what they need to get done against these opponents. Philadelphia showed that there was no this team right now where the Eagles are in a different stratosphere than the Chiefs.
Yeah.
It wasn't that they just caught them on a bad day at the Super Bowl. No, there's something they've built there that is going to be the standard here that everyone else in the NFL is chasing. I take it the other way in terms of the 2-0s. The fact that San Francisco has had to work through this stuff that they've worked through. Mac Jones was spectacular on Sunday. My hat goes off to him, Kyle Shanahan, for them being able to keep that ship afloat. Arizona looks really explosive. Marvin Harrison is realizing some of his potential. But the Indianapolis Colts haven't punted yet. And for everybody leaving that team to die, to be in a position where they've played the way they've played and beaten the teams that they've had to beat, it's very difficult to win in this league, Mike. Ask the Giants how difficult it is to win in this league. In that what happened against Dallas. So you give your cap and you give your credit to the guys that can get it done.
Sometimes you catch a big break along the way, right? I mean, the Indianapolis Colts, the 60-yard field goal is missed, but the Denver guys called for the leverage penalty, 15 yards. The kicker gets the untimed down, another crack at it from 45. He puts it through, and they knock off the Broncos. Those are the kind of things that happen that can, you don't know what that's going to start for a team like the Indianapolis Colts. So we'll see what happens.
Especially when everybody is counting them out from day one.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones thing. I mean, people were giving them no chance, and I would even throw myself into that category to an extent. And you win football games. You got to keep it going. There's 15 more of these things. But it's a lot easier to be at 2-0 than be at 0-2 like the Chicago Bears currently are.
Yeah, definitely. Well, with that, we'll call it a wrap on this edition of Packers Unscripted. Be sure to continue following all of our coverage of the team on Packers.com, the upcoming road trip to Cleveland this week in Week 3, and we will preview that game on our next show. So for Wes, I am Mike. Thank you for tuning in, everybody, and we will see you next time.